Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, nerds. Happy morning drive time to everybody. Happy Thursday. Joining me today is Dan Dusang from Bungie Entertainment. Dan, you and I have known each other actually for a few years.
Yeah.
How did we meet? Do you remember?
Did we meet before the meetup?
No.
Okay. I
It was
didn't
a
think
grill.
so. Okay, yeah. So Caldane, who's probably watching right now, he invited all of his podcasting friends to his house, which is just absolutely in the boondocks in
right.
Oklahoma. Driving there the first time, I absolutely thought that I was gonna get just murdered and
he has us
roasted
like
over
park
a
in a
fire.
field.
Yeah. It's like imagine the sketchiest country softball game you've ever gone to, and like the kind of place you would drive to go to like one of those underage drinking bonfires in high school, but like while we're all adults and actually worried about getting murdered because we're conscious about like our well-being. As adults. Yeah, that was the experience. Anyway, so yeah, I met Stevo out there and I didn't get murdered and it was awesome.
Nobody got murdered. Everybody stayed alive. You had a podcast at the time because it was a podcast meetup.
Right. Yeah.
So what were your podcast origins before we get into video game origins?
So I was on a handful of podcasts out of Wizards Asylum in Norman, Oklahoma. The first one and our most popular was Planeswalker Asylum, which was Magic the Gathering based. And it started as just several idiots who wanted a reason to like curse and be obscene in general with the pretext of talking about Magic the Gathering. Right. And then we went for a while, and then regular podcast stuff we dropped off. Things change, people move away, and lives change, whatever. And then we came back, and I think that was like my favorite gag that we ever did. Was when we came back, we acted like we had never missed an episode. It was like a year and a half gap.
A year and a half. Something. That's fantastic.
And we came back with the same numbering scheme. And whenever anybody asked about an episode, we would just like make something up on the spot about like what happened that episode and just committed to never having missed an episode. That's fun.
That's hysterical. No. What part of Magic the Gathering did you talk about? Was it like the scene, like the tournament scene? Was it like card releases, everything?
Everything, yeah. It was basically just like a weekly. Well, yeah, I think we did every week, maybe every 2 weeks. Either way, it was like basically just like Magic news. We'd talk about tournament stuff if something cool happened, new decks that were out, what format was fun at the time, what we were playing, new cards when they came out. We did like an idiot goof review of new sets. Like, you go to regular places to get reviews of cards for real, and you came to us if you wanted to know, which characters we thought would take the biggest dumps, that kind of stuff. It was
yeah.
That's how it worked.
The kind of podcast you can expect out of like Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I work with Red 6. I can say that.
Okay? Yeah.
So, Dan, what do you do? What do you do for Bungie?
I am my actual official title is pretty generic. It's Contract Generalist Tester, which basically just means that I am QA and quality assurance for anyone who doesn't know in testing the game. But I'm on a 1-year contract that started early, like first quarter of last year. Or not last year. That's still this year. Yeah, it started like first quarter of 2021, buddy. Yeah. Wow. Time. How does it even work? So yeah, I've been on this contract for a few months, and I honestly, there are a lot more versions of Tester than a lot of people might expect. Definitely more than I expected, because what I'm actually doing is testing dev tools. So like the programs they use to make the video game, I make sure that those programs still function every time a new build of the game comes out. So basically when like they add content, did the content someone added break the functionality of the paintbrush that they use to make the background in levels and stuff? So I've described it to a few friends as if I worked in a carpentry shop, I would be testing the hammers and the drills and the screwdrivers, but not actually making the woodwork or sitting in the chairs.
As folk are making the woodwork and bringing in new tools and stuff, you're making sure that it didn't break any of the other ones.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So how did you find this? Because the Bungie is not based in Oklahoma. So
no, not at all.
And you live in Oklahoma. So is there an office there? Is this remote? How does this work?
I'm working fully remote, and this is like they're actually transitioning now into a more remote-oriented setup. Recently, Bungie is expanding and has been for a while. Like the studio is getting very big, and they're still hiring a lot of people. Heads up, if you have the kind of skills or you want to try to get into the games industry. And they're actually starting to really embrace the like full remote work lifestyle. They still plan on opening the studio back up. Don't know exactly when, but the planning is happening. But they're also opening basically little central studio outposts all over the country. They just opened, or they're going to open one in Florida. They opened one in Texas. There's another one in California, I think. And basically that's like a centralization kind of thing for remote workers, so that it's not just like everybody is connecting directly to Seattle or trying to. You can actually get like a little bit of decentralization of that, so that we can have a little more, custom workforce, I suppose. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but
I guess that's sort of the way that, I know several game dev studios have leaned that way. I think Square was one of them. A lot of people working remote on like the recent Final Fantasy Origins game, for example. And, a lot of companies in general leaning remote, during and post pandemic, of course. So that makes sense. How did you come across it? Was this something that you sought out and find it in the classified ads, or
so I play Destiny as like my daily driver video game, right? That's what I sink most of my time into. I am absolutely a hobbyist when it comes to playing Destiny. It is my primary video game. Other ones come and go, but Destiny's always there to play weekly. And because of that, I'm pretty plugged in to the Destiny community, including following a whole bunch of devs on Twitter. And as the studio's expanded, there's been a lot of posts about, hey, come apply here, like work at Bungie, do this. We need lots of people to do this stuff. And I've been working IT for a long time, and it'd be cool to work in video games, but I didn't just want to work in video games. I wanted to work at Bungie, because like, especially with all the turmoil in the video games industry recently, I had never heard anybody say anything bad about Bungie. Like, I had never heard a former worker or a current worker come out about bad conditions or getting about getting treated like dirt in one position or another, one way or another. That just speaks a lot to me. So I applied for one of those positions, the contract tester position, and this is like the second time I had applied, I think. And to my surprise, I got a call for an interview, and because I have no experience in this, like, at all. So like the contract tester position like that is like literally the stepping in point for somebody, even if you don't have a ton of experience. If you don't have any experience in like game dev, that's a point where you can come in, as long as you can work with tech and play as part of a team and follow instructions. You can get the job done to make sure that the content that's being made is working the way it's supposed to.
So this is the kind of position that, just to sort of hammer on what you said, any that you don't have to have gone to school for coding or anything like that. Does it help, or does it, like, how much coding at all is part of your day?
I don't do any coding at all. The only code that I touch is to make sure that people can like add code, manipulate code in the tools that they use. So I basically just like will open something up and verify that I can alter strings, save what I changed, that kind of thing. So I don't do any coding at all, but there are positions where it would definitely help, like testing positions, because there are, I think the way that it's kind of broken up is like, instead of one pool of QA, every department in the studio has QA kind of built in. There are some groups that are just QA and that's their deal. But most of the groups have like, I am basically that. Like, I am a tester that's like baked into the dev tools area. So I'm not like, I could end up getting pulled to work on something else if like there's a big release coming and they just need hours looking at new content to make sure. But in general, my day is just spent doing this, and that's like my whole sphere. So I applied for that generalist position, having no idea what I was going to get, because I expected, just like most people do, I applied to be a tester. So, oh, cool, I get to play the video game and see what's broken, try to look around and find stuff. And no, like after I got the second interview and then talked to my boss, I found out what I was going to do, and I was like, huh, that's really interesting. And then like I got to start doing it, and I was like, holy crap, this is like, what I actually do is barely game facing. I do the like most basic functionality tests in game. Like I load up a map, can I punch? Do my guns fire? Do I see my gun? That kind of thing. Yeah, how do you break Adobe? That's exactly right. Yeah. That's yeah, Adobe is awful, and it always has been in every job that I've ever worked. So I basically just get to not play the game but still be a part of the studio, which is awesome, because that means that I'm not going to get burnout on playing the game at work and not want to play it when I get off work.
So this isn't a like, this hasn't, pulled the curtain aside and you're like, oh, now you said it hasn't ruined the game for you. Has it affected? Has it increased your appreciation of the game at all? Like knowing, to a degree, like how many actual moving parts for something. So for a game like a service, a game as a service, right? And I don't think you would disagree that Destiny 2 is game as service as opposed to game as product. Game as products, obviously there are updates and stuff that devs will release, but especially a game as service, there's thousands of moving parts all the time, constantly, and it never stops. And so whether it's WoW or Final Fantasy 14 or Destiny 2 or like a Rainbow Six Siege, there's I imagine that I imagine that I was wondering if spending day in and day out would affect your gameplay at all.
If I was actually playing the game, like I have a few friends in different areas, and some of them, like, that's their job, is like there's a new expansion coming in February 22nd. It's the Witch Queen. Everyone play it. It's fantastic. I've actually gotten to play through that content, and it is chef kiss. If you like Destiny, it is, boy howdy, is it some good Destiny. But they're the kind of people that play through the campaign every day. Right. Like that's their job, is like they get in at like 8 a.m. or whatever, and they load up the campaign, and then they play through it, and that they do it every day. And that, boy, I would get sick of that. But since I'm not doing anything remotely like that, it was something I was worried about originally, because I play a lot of Destiny 2. So it would be pretty gnarly to not want to play when I got off work. But I got lucky in a lot of regards with this job, but that one kind of in particular for my playtime. So no, for me in particular, in my position, it has never come up that way. I still just want to play Destiny, and like it's basically like I get to work on Destiny without having to play it all the time, and which is awesome, because then I get to like see new content early and just be like overly hyped. And like right now, I am so incredibly anticipating my friends' reactions to the 30th anniversary stuff that comes out in early December, and for Witch Queen. Like it's the way that I've described it to other people is like, I don't have any kids, not married. This is the closest I will ever be to getting to see a kid's expression on Christmas morning when I have wrapped the presents,
Right.
So like I'm so very excited to like see my friends' reactions to all of this cool content, because it is badass. It is really cool.
Were you a Destiny 1 fan, or did you come in at Destiny 2?
I played a lot of Destiny 1. I was a Taken Tot, so I didn't start until the Taken King came out
Okay.
to start year 2. And then I played through basically all of year 2, and I started Rise of Iron and played through a few months of that. And then WoW got its hooks back into me. Yeah, Taken Tot's like my favorite little moniker for like, when did you start Destiny? I've always loved that. And WoW got its hooks back into me a little while after Rise of Iron. So I took a break until Destiny 2 came out, and I played like day one Xbox for Destiny 2, and then that was basically a holdover for waiting for it to come out on PC.
Right.
But we played the like 2 months, whatever it was, on Xbox, and then a lot of us moved over to PC. And the clans held the whole time, but I played through the first raid and through the first expansion in D2, which was Curse of Osiris. And as most people know, the year 1 model was not very good for Destiny 2. It was a lot of changes that were just not in the spirit of what anyone who plays the game regularly wants to play. And after I had accomplished literally everything there was to do in the game, owned every gun, owned all the armor, had beaten the raid after 2 weeks of Curse of Osiris, there was nothing to do. So I kind of moved off. Yeah, I mean, forever is a you thing, but the game's good now. They changed it back. If you like Destiny 1, Destiny 2 is right where you want to be now. But I came back when they started talking about Forsaken as being like the fix to all of the issues the community had, and that was during the second expansion, Warmind, and I haven't stopped playing since. So the back half of year 1 for D2, I came back and I've been playing ever since.
Were you said that you had wanted to work specifically at Bungie as well as
Yeah.
working in games general. How long had you been a fan of Bungie? Was it Halo CE?
Yeah.
Did it go
Yeah.
back to Marathon? Like where was your entry point for Bungie?
It was Halo CE. And this is like a deep cut for my gaming history. So I was like a hardcore Nintendo fanboy, like the garbage console wars stuff you see all over random media. I was that guy, as most of the people
you were
that are
standing up for the little guy Nintendo.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Well, as opposed to Bill Gates trying to muscle in on the video game
I guess
industry,
there are
right? Yeah,
many little guys in the console wars. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. But yeah, as most of the people that have time or energy to scream about that stuff are, I was in my early 20s, and my opinions were, very more important to me than they should have been. So,
opinions are more important than family.
Yeah. So I brought my GameCube to college, and then some friends downstairs. Hi, Nick. Some friends downstairs had an Xbox, and I finally played Halo for the first time one night. And yeah, by like the end of the next year, I had my own Xbox. We were playing like Halo 1, like you could play 16 in Halo 1, right? Or was it just 8?
4x4.
It was just 4? Okay.
No. You could do 16.
Oh yeah, 4 on 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were having like decent little LAN parties in the dorm rooms by the end of that year, and yeah, I played a whole bunch of Halo, and then Halo 2 came out, and I have no idea how my grades didn't suffer when Halo 2 came out and Xbox Live fired up, but I played so many hours of online Halo 2, and just like loved the shit out of the campaign. And I think I loved Halo 3 also. But then I never, like, once Bungie got off of it, I never really followed. I guess I kind of fallen out of love with Halo at that point anyway. But I played Reach and ODST, and then I didn't really follow anything with the franchise from there. So I haven't played like 4 or 5.
Okay. Did you always want to work in games like when you were a kid? Was this like a long time dream of yours, or something that you sort of decided on as an adult that you wanted to work in gaming?
As an adult, it's like looking back at like how I went through college, I did what interested me and not what like I did what interested me at the time, and not what was really going to make a great career. So what I should have done was just like knuckle down and go into computer science, like learn how to code. And because I actually think like I would have done really well with that if I had just like had the discipline to like learn how to code, have someone teach me how to code like that. And I thought about it early, but never really cared too much about it. And working in games since then has more just been I've gotten more into gaming as an adult, and just curious about the process. That was the biggest thing. Is like I kind of wanted to know, I wanted to see behind the curtain and like have a little more understanding of how the games were made, and that's kind of what led me here. And again, just hearing about the culture at Bungie, I just wanted to work at Bungie. So if I was going to work in games, this is where I was going to land. So it was like absolutely a dream job, shoot the moon thing, and I hit it. So sweet.
That's awesome. See, I've been gaming since I was 6, and there have been many times where I've thought to myself, like, it might be cool to work in gaming, but I don't have the patience to code. I don't have any idea about being like QA or in that realm. I think I don't even know if this job exists. I know it does exist for some companies, but I don't know how prevalent it is. But being the dialogue writer, like,
Sure.
or a scenario writer or script puncher or something like that, that would be, I think, where I would like, okay, that's where I think I would shine.
I mean, that's a big deal, especially now. Like with a lot of things, but especially with games as a service, if they actually have an ongoing story, it's super important. Like it took them a while to get Destiny's story to a place where people actually cared about it. It was like always the meme from D1, right? It's like there just is no story. You just run around and shoot aliens, or you jump into the Crucible and shoot other players. There's no story in this game. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And all the stories and cards that are out of game. They've done a really good job with the seasonal model the last couple of years of fixing that. Like the story that grows and ebbs and flows season over season now is one of the like drawing points to the game.
The thing that I love about Destiny 2 now, and I sort of get into it for spells and then come back, and it's just like my attention. I can't light on one game too long. Part of the reason why I don't tend to play MMOs is that I'll do it for a few, like 3 months, and then I move on to something else, and I may come back, but I will always sort of flit around. The thing that I really like about Destiny 2 and what their storytelling has become specifically is that it's starting to feel like seasons of TV. And I like that because no other game does that. There will be releases and additions and missions to, Ghost Recon Wildlands put out additional missions periodically and different little story chunks, and that was really cool, and I love that. But, each season of Destiny changing and retiring old like storylines. Like there's parts of the game that you could play during X time that, to my knowledge, you cannot play anymore.
They've fixed that some. Like basically, the new content that comes with the stories is around for a year now instead of just the 3 months. But yeah, it's as far as the game writing goes, like the writing core is pretty big, and they have a really important and are doing a great job right now. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, they're doing a great job of like making separate stories that do feel like either extended episodes of a TV show across the season, or like smaller episodic shows that are happening every week. Because there's for the first like 7 or 8 weeks of a season, there's a like weekly update to the story as the beats happen. And yeah, that's kind of how it plays out.
My nitpicky self will look at something like Fortnite and look at Fortnite Season 8 and being like, that's not a season, that's an update. Or like, you know what I mean? And Destiny feels like seasons. That's fair. Like actual seasons of a TV show. And that's cool. That's awesome.
You're absolutely right. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, that's one of those I've just been like in it so long that I'm just like, oh, cool, like new story. That's awesome.
Right. So what's a normal day for you like then? Like you get up, you log in. What's a an 8-hour day or whatever for you look like at for what you can describe?
Sure, I can describe the generics. It's not that bad. In general, I guess my job has changed a little bit. When I started, it was I wake up and I clock in, and I have basically a checklist of like things to test in the new game. And it's more or less just like functionality tests of facets of the programs people use. There's some stuff in Adobe, there's some stuff in just like firing up the game, and then stuff in like programs that are built specifically by Bungie to make Destiny. And I basically just test and make sure that, like, people can make maps, people can alter dialogue, people can make sure the voiceover stuff works. You can change settings and all of these things. Like, I actually, when I stopped and thought about it a few weeks in, I was like, this job is basically just learning how to do the like level 0 version of every job in the studio.
Yeah.
So like I know
Can I
I'm
open
go ahead.
files?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was more like I've learned how to make maps, and I've learned how to like create armor sets and weapons, and how to equip that stuff and move it around, and how to like make fire teams work with different network settings, like all kinds of cool weird little things, but I don't deep dive into any of it. So it's basically just like a functionality checklist of like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And I think one of my favorite parts is like getting good at the checklist stuff. I don't even have to look at the checklist anymore. And so like the things that I started doing and took me like an hour to make it through the list, I can now burn through in like 5 minutes, just because I don't have to like keep looking over at the list. Like, it's muscle memory to like click here, click here, click here. Okay, that looks good on screen. I rotate this, yada yada. So yeah, it's been an interesting process. That's kind of how it started, and now it's more about doing the same thing on a slightly slower basis. As my group is the one that kind of like checks the early packages because this is a game as a service. Everything has to be added to the current game, right? So all of the new stuff has to be added to the functional live game over here. So we're making this thing here, and okay, it works in like this isolated dev environment. And now it's time to like move it into the live game and make sure that it all lines up and nothing breaks and everything functions together.
So, morning, Smurf. First of all, but actually, because Smurf mentioned crossplay, when something, in terms of your specific job and day to day, when something like crossplay is added, or if there's a shift, or if they're going to be adding an expansion, or whatever changes in general that there are, does that have a huge effect on you? Like, you're like, oh, this is going to fundamentally shift the way that you have to do things, or is your job pretty usual regardless of what's shifting around you?
It's pretty usual. There are like, when there are big ads like that, basically what'll happen if at our level of the work something needs to be tested, because like, again, we're like very close to the foundation of like everything. Like, will it work at the very lowest level? A lot of things that get added are already past that. Like, you don't even need to check at that level, because if it doesn't work at that level, then none of it's going to work at all. And if like, you'll know instantly. So we're working at level 1, they want to add it at level 3, say. If it doesn't work, like you click the button and like the power doesn't go, they already know where to look, right? They don't need to step down 2 levels. But some things like there were a couple things with crossplay and with Beyond Light in general that we looked at, or not Beyond Light. That was when did crossplay get added? Was it?
I think it was right
That was the
before Beyond
middle,
Light, wasn't it?
No, it was like the middle of, not the middle of this year, but earlier this year. Yeah, sorry.
Was that
I
recent?
didn't come on till after Beyond Light. I'm just like forgetting that.
Okay.
Because like I'm still used to big releases happening in September, even though it's been shifted to early, to like Q1 of the following year now. Anyway, there were a lot of the season that crossplay got added. There were like 3 big back-end systems that all came in line at once. Like the player ID system that Bungie uses now, so that we can do crossplay, that also got added. Yeah, I think you're right. It was season 14. You're right, Smurf. Thank you. that got added at the same time, and that also includes like voice chat that can function with crossplay. Like these are all huge independent backend systems
Right.
that like need their own custom tailoring to A, be created, B, work into the game, and C, fit together to work on top of one another. So like all of those things, like my boss's boss was like, you know, the scene from Airplane where the dude just like smoking cigarettes and chugging coffee is like, he posted a gif of that like 3 times a day at the beginning of that season, because so many things were getting added outside of an expansion. It's like there was more backend changes for that season than there was in Beyond Light when they updated the whole damn engine that runs the game as a service. So it was interesting. But yeah, we had a couple things that got added because of crossplay, and that was mostly just kind of networking stuff that we tested, because we obviously the game gets tested on every possible system that it can run on. So like there were people testing crossplay from PC to Stadia and Xbox to PlayStation, yada yada. So yeah, we had a little bit of change, but it didn't like wildly alter my daily routine.
Do you now that you're on the other side of it, from player to on the other side of the curtain, so to speak, whenever you see someone on Twitter go like, why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this basic functionality blah 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 blah? Do you feel like now that you're on the other side, do you feel more spiky about that? Like, dude, you have no idea the millions of things that go on.
So I'm a fairly empathetic person as is. So like I was never there were some times where I'd get kind of spicy about like when things were broken or when things were like totally unbalanced in the game. But I've always known that it's you can't change the stuff on a dime, right? You just can't turn. You just can't turn like that. Things like there's a lot of lead up time to any change that happens, and I knew that all the time. But it has become especially apparent to me how much effort it takes to make even the smallest change in a live service video game in particular. And one of my favorite sayings that I picked up almost instantly from my team was, "No video game ever has any business actually functioning." No video game should function.
It's all magic.
It's a miracle. Every fucking one of them. It's a miracle. So yeah, it is there are so many things going on and so many hands that touch like everything all the time. I think the analogy I came up with thinking about it once I understood our system a little more is like making a video game is like a library. That will just like play the stories for you when you walk in the door as the consumer, right? So I'll answer this first question. Me personally, Smurf, 0. I am not on the sandbox team, and I'm not anywhere near gun design, so I haven't had to deal with any of that. Like I'm there again. They're at like level 3 in the system, and I'm working at level 1. I'm like, my job is to make sure that when I pull Telesto out, I can see it. If I have it equipped in those tests, and to make sure that it has a model, and to make sure that it fires. What the gun does after it fires, that's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
That ain't my job. So, and there's got to be specialized work like that too, right? That's why you have so many different areas, so many different focuses, and that's like, I think that's one of the things that's always bugged me the most. Going back to your why don't they simply just do X to make this work? Is people thinking that yeah, me too, Smurf. I love that gun so much. People thinking that if you cut time from the group that's making the skins or like an event or something, that you could assign those people to go fixing guns.
Right. So yeah, if they spent less time on multiplayer, they'd have made the campaign better.
Exactly.
Those are like two different teams, dog.
Absolutely. Like they're like two complete different disciplines. Like that's legitimately asking a bunch of mathematicians to go do biology work. Like, why don't you chalkboard jockeys go work out in the field field and pick up some birds.
Right.
Huh? It's like literally the same thing that you're asking for when you say that stuff. And like people thinking that like they're picking up all of the art from like some external website or whatever, and that every game studio doesn't just have a fleet of artists on staff working on cool design stuff all the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's that kind of stuff has been wild to me. That's the only thing that really gets me. But like the working on this side of the curtain has absolutely made me more empathetic to the process, even more empathetic. I'm a fairly even-tempered guy regardless. I'm not going to get mad at somebody. They're out there just doing their job. Like me yelling at the game devs on Twitter is the same as me yelling at the dude handing me my burger at Wendy's, right? It's like that guy's not, it's not his job to deal with people yelling at him about this. It's his job to like do the work.
Right.
So it's a miracle that any game works. And the analogy I come back to it, sorry.
Your library analogy.
Yeah, the library. So it's like a library that plays the story for you when you walk in. But the library is also, all the books are being actively written, like in the background. That you don't go grab the book yourself. The book gets shown to you, or the book gets read to you, because someone's working on that book or another book in the back. And if you want to write in the book, if you want to add to it, you have to go in, pull the file out, open it, write it, save it, and then put it back, and make sure that everything works when you put the book back. And like that's basically how this is. And that's like, and now think of that happening with 1,000 people pulling books from different areas, like different genres, adapting them, writing them, saving them, and then put it back. And making sure that everything works all the time. That's my job. I'm like the librarian there. I make sure the library still functions. Right. And it's like a really, it's wild, like how many moving parts there are and how much is changing all the time inside a game like that.
That's amazing. Smurf's actually getting to a question that I was going to ask later, but we'll ask now. What's your favorite legendary exotic weapon and exotic gear in D2?
So my favorite exotic ever is Gallahorn. And it's coming back on December 7th.
That's the rocket launcher?
Boy, howdy, is it the rocket launcher.
And from D1?
From D1, that's right. Okay. The one that ended worlds in D1. Before there was any kind of like, bad luck protection for trying to get a specific exotic, before there was any kind of like quests for exotics, there was pure RNG with low drop rates in Destiny 1, and that was Gallahorn to a T. It's like it was a lot harder to make changes to the game in Destiny 1 than it is now. So like same Smurf. I'm very, very excited for the 7th. I've just been calling December 7th Gallahorn Day. Because like that's all that I'm doing on the 7th is getting the gun and just using it ad nauseum. So like in D1, it was like the mythical thing because it was like so much more powerful than every other exotic, and it had that insanely low drop rate. Exotics did in general, and then you're just rolling it like a 1 in 25 or whatever it was when you got the exotic to pop up. And they didn't let it come into year 2, so I didn't really get to use it much as in Taken King, and they brought it back in Rise of Iron in like a balanced version. It was good but not great in Rise of Iron. 1 in 25 isn't bad, but it's like a 1 in 10,000 to get an exotic to drop. So when you think about it as a 1 in 25 after a 1 in 10,000, yeah,
then
yeah,
adds up.
It was hard. It was hard to get a Gallahorn in year 1 unless you were really lucky. But yeah, the one coming out I've gotten to play with, and oh my god, I can't wait. It's the gun is it feels so good. I can't wait to play with it. But yeah, that's my favorite all time. My favorite current exotic in game right now is honestly probably Telesto. More for not because it breaks the game all the time, but that's funny. I do appreciate it.
What type of gun? What's the gun type of Telesto?
Telesto is a fusion rifle. That's always been a little different. So fusion rifles in Destiny 2, they're charge up guns. So you hold down the trigger and it charges up. Most games have something like this. It'll charge up and then fire after a second. So you like aim and you pull the trigger and it charges up, and like wherever you're actually wherever the cursor is when the gun goes off, that's where the shot goes. So Telesto has always been a little special. because it fires a bunch of bolts like most fusion rifles that charge up, but its bolts are sticky, so they don't just like vaporize on contact. They'll kill something if they touch it, but like they'll stick to surfaces. And because of that, the gun has been problematic. We'll say as a very underwhelming
Diplomatic
response. Yeah. It's so, and basically just because of like how it had to be coded, things have had to change like a dozen or so times. There have been issues with it where just like, for whatever reason, because of the coding, the bolts count as enemies. It is, Jedi. It's kind of like the Needler, but like the needles would like, one of the appeals to this gun is the needles will like stick to the ground, and then if something runs over them after, they'll act like a proxy mine.
Oh wow!
So like Telesto is like, in general, it's a pretty powerful gun. It's like it's a cool gun. It's really neat design, but it's the way the bolts have had to be coded that has just caused so many problems. Like, and this is one of those things where like you can never possibly find the issues with Telesto or all of the ones that the community finds. You can't ever find those in studio, because like all of the stuff that comes up,
right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's like you only have so many work hours that you can put in with all of these teams that even have the capacity to touch Telesto and do anything about it, like see it, test it, yada yada. And a lot of these things that are coming up, the community finds, and it's just not necessarily like full-blown corner case stuff, but things that like, even if it's an interaction with like a seasonal mod that's come out, you have to test Telesto shots with every seasonal mod on this big list of things people can choose from every season, and you have to test it in different environments, against players, and in PvE, against bosses, against minor enemies. Like, just one of those passes, if you tried to do that, would take somebody a whole day. And like, there are like 25 mods that come out like that every season, and you just like can't dedicate one person's entire month to testing one gun every time a season comes out, because like that's 1 month gone for one person in a 3-month cycle of content creation. And you just like, you're absolutely right. It's a numbers game, and it's just in no way efficient to have somebody do that. So for corner case stuff like that, we catch the biggest ones. The community never sees the like really big ones, because we actually caught those, right?
Community fine tunes to a degree.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it's like if a really egregious stuff comes up, it'll come up in that regular play, and in the regular passes that the QA does. And because of that, like, we catch the big stuff, but the smaller stuff, like, oh, this interaction with this mod that's something if the community finds it, if it's a problem and the community finds it, then we learn about it and then somebody fixes it. And then, or sometimes like there's an interaction with a mod, like last season, there was a mod that made it made things that explode do more damage on the explosion. That was the mod's job. And its whole purpose was to make things like rocket launchers do a little more damage, have a little more punch. There's a sword that can be equipped specifically by Titans and nobody else, called Crown Splitter. Crown Splitter has a special attack for a sword that no other sword has, where you do a big overhead chop. You literally jump in the air and you do a big overhead chop, and there's a big bang. Well, it turns out that's an explosion. And since this mod was only supposed to buff like rocket launchers, grenade launchers, well, it buffed Crown Splitter too. And it buffed Crown Splitter by a lot. So they fixed a lot of those issues. But sometimes they let bugs like that slide as a treat, you know?
Right, like, oh, hey, that was kind of fun. Or like, that was a little unintended, but have at. That's funny.
Yeah. It was a Crown Splitter. Is it Trejas? Trexus, okay. It was Crown Splitter, Trexus, yeah. It doesn't do that now because the mod's gone. I forget what the mod was called last season, but it had that interaction. So like, I am a very big proponent, as a longtime Destiny player, of leaning into flavor of the week when it comes to guns like that. So I don't use Crown Splitter now in like my regular gameplay, but I absolutely used it last season, like all season, because it was super fun. Like I it was the bonk stick. It was the horny stick. I was just sending enemies to horny jail, and like every time that I did the big wind up, it's like bonk. Like in raids, I kill a big enemy, bonk. My whole raid team heard it every time. That was a lot of fun.
When you play, do you primarily play PvE, PvP? Do you mix it up?
I mix it up. I'm mostly a PvE player. And Jedi messaged me, man. Like, we have a very active clan, awesome Discord server, a lot of cool people. If you want people to play with, we play.
Are you friendly with console players?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I play on PC. Most of us do, but we have a couple console players in the clan. Happy to have folks along. Friend of Red 6 and friend of this show. I'm volunteering that and making it a thing if it's not already a thing. John Hammock is also in my clan. He's my I think I said it in the Red 6 episode, but he's my ride or die buddy. Playing Destiny with. He and I've been playing Destiny since D1, and he's been playing on controller on PC the whole time. I changed over to mouse and keyboard, but he stayed on controller, and play whatever input you want.
This may sound like a stupid question, but everybody has their own reasons. You started off on console, you moved to PC. Why did you move to PC?
Frame rate.
I was wondering if it was specifically frame rate.
Yeah.
I think that's what's in a lot of people.
Now I've gotten too used to playing mouse and keyboard. I honestly just couldn't. Yes, Smurf, we do. I honestly couldn't go back to a controller now, even though I kind of want to, because I'm getting more into PvP now, and it's like if you're on controller in PvP, you have to deal with the turn radius issues, and that's like why I don't want to play on controller. Mm-hmm. But as a lot of PC purists hate, you get wild ass aim assist with a controller in this game. Just absolutely degenerate amounts of aim assist with a controller.
Hey, and it is what it is, man.
Exactly. Like, yeah. I got no qualms. Like I'm here to game. I'm here to have fun. So like there are some guns that I use and try to get good with in PvP, and I'm like, man, if I was just on controller, like that would have been a headshot. But it's like, I can't have it both ways. I can't have like the movement tech that I have on keyboard and mouse and get the aim assist. So it's funny. The movement tech is more important to me.
This is not like, I'm not calling you out. I've had PC friends in the past that will go, you should play on PC, and I go, okay, tell me why. It's because it's much more precise. You have much more control. You will be better if you are playing on PC. And I go, okay, so if I played you from my console and you were on PC, well, you have aim assist. I'm like, well, hold on a second. You can't say yours is better while also telling me mine is better. Like that, you can't walk both sides of that.
That's all garbage. I mean, the real thing that makes me a little mad about the game, and it's like current state and just kind of how the way some things are designed like that. Some guns are just like non-functional without controller aim assist. Like there's an exotic called The Last Word that's been around since Destiny 1, and that gun is bananas on controller, but it is completely stone cold unplayable on keyboard and mouse. Because like
why is that?
It's just because of like they had to change the way the aim assist worked for basically, it's like when it started, it was the opposite, where it was just like the best gun you could be using on keyboard and mouse, but unplayable on controller. And when they tuned it to be closer to the middle, so it's like it was one was over here and one was way over here, and now they're both like here, but it's like the line that gets crossed to go towards the bad side is still too bad. Right. And it's just, I don't know, the gun is meant to be hip fired is what it comes down to. So
is
it's
it
like
beam.
No,
like
it's a hand cannon. It's like think of like old school gunslinger shoot out at the OK Corral kind of stuff, where it's like bang 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 bang. That's the point of the gun, is to fire off 8 rounds like that. So you're not even supposed to aim down sights with the gun.
Okay, you're just supposed to general direction.
Correct.
And so with just a little bit of aim assist, you can just absolutely wreck shop with that.
The gun is meant to stop shotgun rushers. That's like its whole job in the Crucible. It's like it's mostly a Crucible weapon. its job is to stop shotgun rushers. So you can just like, oh, I'm sniping, I'm sitting in the back, I'm a cool guy. So you put it, they run at you, and you just like pull the gun out at like mid range, and you just hold the trigger down, and it's just bang, 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 and it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to have enough aim assist naturally to hit them in the head enough times to put them down.
Right.
But like because because the gun itself lives on aim assist, it has to be like tweaked to make sure that it functions on each input. And apparently there's no middle ground with this gun. It's either good on one or good on the other. And that's the sandbox thing, right? Like that's something that's got to get tuned by a whole different team than even the people that are gathering the feedback. And then you've got teams for people that are working on the input, not only the guns themselves, but like how the inputs work for each one of the guns. And it's just, there's so much to it. There's so much to all of it. It's wild.
I want to get back to what a little bit more about what you do, but I do have a conceptual question before I forget to ask. Bungie seems to be the kind of company that listens to feedback, like
absolutely
takes feedback to heart, and I think that that's extraordinarily admirable. I think there is also a flip side to that, that is that could potentially be bad, and we're talking about democratization of art here a little bit, and I'm thinking about how people reacted to the ending of Mass Effect 3 to how versus the way that devs now listen to the community and what they need and what they want in terms of like games as service. So, to you, how important is it for a game like Destiny 2 to listen to community? Should it be incredibly important, or is it really more just like the art of what the devs are trying to make? Do you know? Does that question make sense?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely it does. For games as a service in particular, I think it might be it's either the first or second most important thing a studio can do is listen to the community. Like there's also an element of you can't let the kids run the kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because they just have no actual clue what they're doing. Like what they want
want to eat candy
and
all the time.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's really important to listen to the community, but it's also important to understand that you need to like blend what the community is asking for with the experience and what already exists to find some middle ground that is both good design wise and fun to play. And that is, no amount of that was more evident than year one of Destiny 2, where like they listened to some aspects of what the community asked for too much. Like Crucible in particular. Crucible has almost completely changed back to what it was in Destiny 1 since the start of D2, because they completely overhauled the system going off of what a lot of people asked for, like what the community asked for most. And it turns out that what the community wanted was just bad. it just wasn't a good way to play the video game. So and like once it's absolutely one of those. But I gave you what you asked for. Not like this. I didn't want it like this. I gave you what you asked for.
Right. So, sort of what we call the Star Wars Episode 9 of game development. Like, that's what you wanted. You saw Episode 8 and you guys asked for this, so you got what you asked for in Episode 9.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's really important to listen to the community, especially in a live service game, because if the whole point is to keep people coming back to play either every week or every 3 months when a new season comes out. So if you're not adding stuff that people want, if you're not adding cool stuff, then what's the point? Like nobody's going to come back and play. Right. And if you're not, like, there are a lot of people who play this game like myself every week. Maybe not every day like I do, but they come back and play on the weekends or a couple nights a week. And it's important to keep them engaged too. So you need to make sure that like enough changes are happening to keep stuff fresh. And that's like one of the big reasons why I'm such a huge fan of like the flavor of the week, whether it's a buff that a gun gets when a season starts or when a catalyst comes out, or it's some weird bug that happens when a mod allows my sword to just one shot big yellow bars. It's really important to have changes like that. The microtransaction thing, that's obviously a whole different conversation, but it is also very important to keep the aesthetics cool, right? to make sure
I
that
think
everybody
aesthetics
is
is the perfect use of microtransaction. Like when people talk about microtransaction in a game, usually what they're coming down on is pay to win
sure,
or some variation of
yeah,
that. Paying for aesthetics
hmm
makes perfect sense to me.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I want the John McClane skin in Warzone. Is that
hmm
worth $5 to me? Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah.
Is horse armor worth $10 in Oblivion? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Did I buy it anyway? Yes, because I'm a fool. So
Yeah.
what's the most frustrating part? So you can speak either in general. What's
Yeah.
the most frustrating part of your job, or was there a specific frustrating thing that you had to overcome that was particularly problematic?
I think the most frustrating thing for me so far in this job has been getting so used to the daily routine that when it changed in the last month or so for me, it's been a real adjustment. Because like I got so used to being so good and so clean at doing all of these things that when I had to add new things to test or the things to test changed simply because of like the system got overhauled, right? Like the people who, for example, the people who make the dialogue wanted the program that they use to do that to change. So like I've had to get used to testing that program in a different way, and like it just it makes me feel like I'm that day one dude again who has to like look at the checklist for an hour to like find out where all the buttons are. That's been frustrating, is like stepping back, but it's also just like learning experience, right? So it's, you just kind of have to get used to it. And that's,
When
go ahead.
where you are at your position, how
Mhm.
much communication do you have with other teams at Bungie? Like how
Um,
are you mostly like in your pod, in your group? Do you get to correspond with other aspects of the dev team?
So the studio is very big, and there are a ton of teams, and all of them are in contact with other teams. But I don't think any, maybe like one level of the management team is in touch with every team.
Right.
And so nobody's in
Okay.
touch with everybody.
Right.
Like even us, who, like I said, I know how to do level 0 of almost every job in the studio. Even our team doesn't actively talk to every other group. We only talk to those groups every like a couple times a year to make sure that the work that we're doing is representative for what they need, and to if they check in with us about like a change they're making, that kind of thing. So we're pretty autonomous, but we do have to talk specifically with the people that organize uh, integration of code. So, like I said, we have to move things into a live game from a dev environment. But there are multiple levels. Let's like we want to go up to the live game here, but we have to start in the dev environment down here, and there are like 3 stages before it actually makes it into the live game. And we mostly deal with like way down here into level 1. And then it's other people's responsibility who are more specialized to actually like work the next level up. So we're talking to people that are responsible for the foundational build of the game, more than anybody else. But there are a handful of teams that we work with. And also, we're randomly responsible for loaner computers that people need. So, like, we will coordinate getting computers lent out to people for remote work.
Okay.
So we talk to other teams like that sometimes, but it's not necessarily like like working with them, to do like
Right.
their work.
What aside from Destiny 2, which would you say Destiny 2 is your favorite game currently?
Yeah.
Your favorite game?
Yeah,
So
it's just there's too much. I've got too much into it and too many good memories. Still like I'll be like I'm subverting your next question here. I'm sorry. But
perfect. Go for it.
like last night, one of our there are titles in the game, and one of them requires you to go flawless in the Last Wish raid. That means your entire team needs to run the entire raid without dying, all 6 players. And
that is difficult to do.
Yes, yes, it is. Last Wish is a long raid, and there's an extremely dangerous jumping puzzle in the middle of it, and the whole team needs to not die through the entire run.
When you say long raid, what are we looking at?
5 encounters. There's why can't I remember the first boss's name? There's first boss, there's Shuro, there's Morgeth, there's Vault. Yeah, 5 encounters, 6 actually with Queen's Walk at the end. So it's like actually the longest raid ever in Destiny.
So
that's
how long,
okay.
time-wise, would it take for you to go through
in a normal
like,
run?
What do you
set
set aside?
Like, so our raid night is on Wednesday nights for like my regular raid team. We do other raids when people need them on weekends and stuff. But my regular raid is on Wednesday night, and we set aside like usually 2 hours to just kind of goof off. And if we need to run something that we're used to a handful of times in a week, we can usually get it done, and like we can run the raid 3 times in 3 hours usually. Okay. So about an hour run once you're experienced. When we're learning a new raid, it's going to take us like 2 hours to like make it through, even if we know how to do it. Just like people getting used to mechanics and what guns to use, yada yada. So it takes us about an hour to clear Last Wish, those 6 encounters, because we've done it a million times. It's like the oldest raid in the game at this point. That's still in the game. And I think the run last night took a little over an hour. Like, one of the weird thing that we found out about flawless runs in like the past few years is that because of the focus that it requires, nobody's messing around. So like our flawless runs are usually the shortest runs we've ever done in a raid, because like everybody's just laser focused the entire time
doing their job.
Exactly.
No jokes. You're just
yeah, like we're chatting and like and joking a little bit, but it's like it's serious business time. Anyway, so we've done this. I got with my regular raid team, I got this title like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like before Last Wish was out of like being a regular meta raid. And but we've had new people come in and new people join the raid team, you know, regular game as a service stuff. Folks come, folks go. We've got a fairly stable community, but life changes, you know, things happen.
Sure.
And a couple of our regular raiders don't have the title yet, so they needed the flawless run. So like we just got on last night, and it took us like 3 attempts, and we just popped off and went flawless in that raid after having done it like, you know, 5 times in the last 6 months or whatever. So it's like that's why I play the game. That's why I want to play Destiny this way, and that's why I played WoW. Raiding is what I really love, because it's just like coordinating people to play difficult PvE content is my favorite thing in the whole world, because you're winning as a team. Like you're playing together and you're winning as a group. Man, that feels good. Holy cow.
One of my favorite multiplayer experiences ever was GTA Online's heists. They're cooperative heists where people had jobs that they had to do. People had roles that they had to fulfill. And if you screwed up, it was, I mean, they were until you get it down.
Sure.
You know, when you're learning it, it's difficult. You have to learn the position and what happens here and there. And so with Destiny raids, is that a 6-person?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So, but I'm with you. That multiplayer, and not just, so like I love Halo's co-op, but Halo's co-op I usually use as an example of co-op that doesn't necessarily benefit the campaign, because it's just multiple people doing the same thing.
Right.
And that's fine. That's fine. But I love co-op where people have different roles, and I think the raids really, you know, to shine a spotlight on that is you have a job, you have a job, you have a job. And that cohesion and working together just means a whole different thing to me. So I'm with you on that.
Anyway, so that's like, I guess the higher view of why I love games like this in general. But yeah, you're asking me about other games.
Oh, I was gonna say, outside of Destiny, what are some of your favorite games?
It's been a really good time for video games the last couple years. Like, aside from D2, I think that my favorite game right after that is probably Hades. That game was good. Holy cow. I picked up roguelikes with what was the first one that I played? I think the first one I played was Slay the Spire. So coming from Magic the Gathering is like my primary game for years and years. I don't play Magic anymore, thank God. I finally got out. But I still have a soft spot for card games. Like you know, it's I appreciate the thinking about card interactions and that kind of thing. So card-centric games are appealing to me in general. And Slay the Spire was, I think, the first roguelike that I ever played. because it combines the two. Your deck building. I also like deck builders, so it's a deck builder for card interactions, and it's a roguelike. So I kind of just like picked up on just about every roguelike that I've seen since I got used to Slay the Spire, because I really like the flow of getting used to. Yeah, thank you, Astral. It took years, and it was honestly harder than quitting smoking. It was like stopping playing Magic. It was harder than quitting smoking. But a lot of that was because of the community, right? Like I didn't smoke for the community. I did play Magic for the community that I was a part of.
Right.
So yeah, that was an experience. But so yeah, I picked up on roguelikes pretty quick. I just really like the experience of doing multiple runs and getting better at the game as you go. And then Hades comes out, and I had never played anything from their studio before, and I've just heard nothing but rave reviews. They made
Bastion, right?
Yes, correct. Right. And Transistor and Pyre, they're like their big games, and everybody just raves about those. Like they just love them. And I had never played anything from them before, and I picked up Hades, and it's a roguelike with a story, and that like just blew my mind. They not only are the visuals incredible and the gameplay really, really good, but like they wove the fact that it is a roguelike, which you're supposed to just play like and not think about a story. They wove the repeated runs into the story. And
I love that. I love when games get meta like that.
It was so cool. Good. Have you played Hades?
No, I've seen some of it, but
one thing you need to know: it is the biggest thirst trap of a video game. That like it's
a very awakening game for a lot of people.
Yes. I go out of my way. Like if I see someone post on Twitter like a retweet of a streamer that's like, I'm playing Hades for the first time, I don't care who they are. I don't care if I've never seen or heard of them before. I will go to their stream and I will watch them play Hades for the first time, because like watching people's reactions to when like the gods are displayed for the first time is just priceless. The internet is so horny. The internet is so horny. It is so incredible to watch people's reactions to these characters get revealed.
It's like, I don't know if there's is such a I don't know if I mean I'm sure there is. It's such a thing as like wholesome thirsting, but that's really what Hades seems to me.
Yeah. It's an incredibly wholesome game. It really is. But it's like it's a very wholesome game where every character is the sexiest character you've ever seen. It's just as easy as that. So yeah, the story is incredibly wholesome. They weave the story into the roguelike aspect of the game, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in gaming. It was just front to back. I couldn't put it down. I played the game for like I think I've played the game a total of like 130 hours, and I played 100 of those in the first like 10 days.
Oh wow.
Like I just could not stop playing that game. It was incredible. And that's like I think that's my second favorite game ever. And then it's like it gets to some stuff that's a little older. Not really, actually. Horizon Zero Dawn was also incredible. I played that when it came out on PC, and I just loved the crap out of that. I'm really excited for God of War to finally come out on PC, because I feel like that's one of the best games I've ever played, and I don't own a PlayStation. I watched someone play through that on YouTube, like front to back, every second of that game, and it's so good. That game is so phenomenal. I'm excited to play it myself.
I was very late to God of War, and I bought but have not yet played Horizon Zero Dawn.
It's so good. That is a fantastic game.
I think just a few months ago, I played God of War. It's like 3 years old at this point, and I went into it thinking like, okay, I've heard so many people rave about it. There's just no way that it can be that good. My expectations are so high now. And while I had a few minor gripes with the game, I was like, I finished the game and nope, that was as good as people said it was. Like that was a solid game with a great story, and it's a good story. I'm not going to ruin anything for you guys, because if you've managed to avoid the God of War like spoilers, it takes you places you didn't know you were going.
Yeah, it was It was very well done. For the like specifically for the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn and to God of War, I will eventually be getting a PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I haven't really like gone after it yet, but like those games I've just got to play them faster than before they come out on PC. So,
do you remember the first game you ever played as a human being alive on this earth?
It was either on an NES or a Sega Genesis, and I don't recall. It was honestly probably just Mario, like Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
Because my babysitter had a Nintendo. Man, I don't even remember how old I was at this point. Like maybe 6, maybe I don't know, 6 or 7. And they had a Nintendo, and they had the Super Mario / Duck Hunt cartridge, and I played a lot of that. I never played Atari. I never got anything earlier. And then the first console that I owned as a child was a Sega Genesis that my brother-in-law gave us because his brother just like moved out and left it. I don't remember the details. I don't even know. I don't remember the details.
I'd rather leave a kid behind.
Yeah, what I do know is that I played so much NBA Jam. So much NBA Jam. That was the first game that I remember playing just like generically for fun, and not just to like play through the story of a video game or try to beat a video game for the first time. Like I played some of the harder Sega Genesis games too. Like if you ever played the Aladdin game for Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo, that game was like actually super hard, and I never beat Jafar. I made it all the way to Jafar, but never beat him. And then just like there were a few other things. Like I remember getting used to or learning about renting games as a kid. Yes. I think I rented the Ren and Stimpy game, which is like one of the dumbest games I've ever played for Sega Genesis. I vividly remember that game because of Powdered Toast Man in there. And yeah, it's just weird memories from the Sega Genesis. But what I do know is that Bill Clinton was the end all be all in NBA Jam. And I never missed a 3-pointer. Just running up the score all the time.
So generically speaking about games, what's something that you think should be done away with? Like, is there a trope? Is there a mechanic? Is there something that occurs in a game that just grinds your gears and you're like, can we not do this anymore?
I don't know. Like, that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that.
I'll give you a chance to think about it for a second. There's a couple that bug me whenever I see that. The first one is mirrors in bathrooms. Like most of them, and especially on console, most of them don't work.
Sure, right.
Most of them do not work. Like you don't just. I don't know, close off the bathroom. Just put an out of order sign on it or something. Because I hate going into a bathroom, like, especially like the mirror's broken. Like, okay, you didn't want to, reflections are tough. I understand, but like, it's such a glaring break in the immersion. If I like go into a bathroom and like the mirror's broken or something.
Yeah,
like, okay,
sure.
Well, that's sure. And that's very minor.
Okay.
The other thing is, not so much in fantastical games because they're usually like weird creatures, but like in games set in like real life where you have to like kill a dog. Ooh. Like in Splinter Cell, where like the dogs are barking at you and you have to kill. Like now, like before, I didn't own any pets, and so it didn't really mean anything to me. Now that I like own pets, I'm like, oh god, I don't really want to have to do this in a game.
Yeah.
Like, can we not do that anymore?
That's fair. Okay. I honestly don't think I have anything like that. I don't. Yeah, there aren't any like generic trends in gaming or regular things like that I.
How do you feel about
really
battle
dislike.
Passes?
I think they're fine. And I mean, as someone working at Bungie, playing Destiny all the time, has a battle pass. Like it's as long as, like you said, as long as it's not pay to win, then I think it's fine. Although Destiny's can cross that line a little bit because if you buy the battle pass instead of just playing it naturally, you get the seasonal exotic instantly. But it's like you get it 35 levels early. So like theoretically, someone could be like really hardcore and get it without paying for the battle pass day one. But like within a few days, if you really dedicate, you'll have it.
Okay.
But like and that's only if the gun is actually good. Which isn't like usually the case, honestly.
It's usually like a fun gun as opposed to a destroyer of worlds.
This season's a little different. It's a decent gun. It's a solid gun in Crucible, but it's not like really game breaking anywhere. It's an annoying gun that people dislike in Crucible, but it's not. I don't know. It's not like overrunning everything. It's not defining the meta or whatever. So
right.
Yeah.
Is there a franchise that you'd love to work on, like just in your dreamland, Dan, that it would just it'd be super cool to work on?
I mean, this is it, right? Like I am working on the franchise that I would, if I was working on anything else, I would dream about working on Destiny. But I guess if I had to go with a number 2, it would probably be Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah. I played a lot of Pokemon games. Like I picked up, or Red and Blue didn't come out till I was like 13 or 15 or something. So I was like actually already an established teenager when those games came out. And I've still just been playing them ever since. It's not even like getting attached to it as an 8-year-old like a lot of people or even younger. It's like I just really love that style of RPG. Even with the complaints about releasing, the same game over and over through the generations, like, well, that turns out it was fun the first time. So I like seeing it with new graphics.
If
cool.
the community likes it, then the community likes it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Name a game you absolutely cannot stand.
Cannot stand sports games in general. Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, whatever. Like I used to play them in college with my friends. Yeah, I've seen that, Smurf, and I hope so. That'd be the next season being rocket focused would be dope. But I don't know. Maybe I obviously wouldn't say here, but like I actually haven't seen the seasonal mods for the next season yet. So a game that I can't stand is I honestly despise the fact that they resell Madden as a full game every year.
So is Madden a game that should do what Destiny does? Is that a prime example of just like game as service?
Yeah.
Buy the game, or I maybe not subscription based, but if you have passes or something and then you update rosters just as you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you even if it's like you change it to be like I don't know, $5 a month. I think they have it anyway that way, but like a $5 a month service fee, like basically a monthly sub. Then you get like all of the roster changes all the time. And I'm not any kind of like dev in this way. Like I don't know how to make a game like that work, but like it's basically just there are no core functionality changes to Madden. There haven't been since like 1999. And it's like they're charging a full price game price for the same game every single year. It's like people that just buy a new car every year because it has a bigger number. It's like it's the same thing to me, and I just don't understand it. So
I feel that way about Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
And the thing about, and I'm gonna soapbox here just a little bit. The thing about Dynasty Warriors and honestly the thing about Madden that gets me is that the graphics for what Madden is, for example, the graphics I feel like are so way behind the curve. And I know that the players look great and the field looks great, but everything else, when you look at coaches and sidelines and the surroundings, there are open world games that are more detailed than that. And when you spend 15 minutes loading a single stadium fixed camera experience, that should look photo friggin' realistic to me. And again, I sit here. We just talked, not 30 minutes ago about like, look, being empathetic to the development process and like, what do we know as
Right.
fans about that? But that's a thing that bugs me as a fan is like,
Sure.
why doesn't this game look photorealistic? If it's the way that it's constructed, that's my thing.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah, it's that I also had issues with that because like when I was actually playing those games with my friends in college, it was I noticed that all the time each year. It's like the stands are still just like literal cardboard cutouts. With like it looked like a
Like
worse...
Duke Nukem 3D sprites.
Exactly.
Like...
Yeah. And I was gonna say it's like a pixelated version of Mii's from the Wii. It's like but cardboard cutouts are what was in the stands, and it's just like weird to me. Like the players look great, everything on the field looked great for the time, but yeah, everything in the stands like it's just, and now it's just processing power. Like obviously that's what it comes down to. But the new consoles should be able to handle that. They can handle that. Right. So just wild. But yeah, and I see a lot of people in chat talking about Fortnite. Fortnite's kind of whatever. I honestly really like battle royale games. I don't play them. This is like one of my weird gaming things. I think I've played 2 games of Fortnite in my life, and that's like all the BR that I've played.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, really enjoy watching BRs, like streams and whatnot. They're just incredible entertainment.
There's, regardless of how I've said this before, regardless of how you feel about Fortnite, you don't have to like the game. I'm not going to convince anybody to like the game. Yeah. I like it. I still like Fortnite. Fortnite did a couple of things that we owe kind of a huge bit of gratitude for.
Yeah.
It's streaming. Like streaming in general, Twitch is popular because of Fortnite. I'm sorry, it is. Yeah. I'm sorry, it is. The only reason that Twitch is on CBS News and, CNN and being talked about in the mainstream is because of Fortnite and because of Ninja and people that you can like them or dislike them, that's fine. But there's a reason why it's mainstream, right?
Sure.
And crossplay. Like, Fortnite broke open the crossplay doors. Like, for us to be able to, from Xbox to mobile to PlayStation and PC and getting everybody talking. Mm-hmm. They did that.
Yeah.
So you can...
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think I've heard anybody else say that outright, but I have said that in my communities for years at this point. Like, the reason that Destiny 2 got crossplay this year is because Fortnite forced PlayStation to the table years ago.
Yeah.
Like, PlayStation would still be holding out and making it so the community was divided if Fortnite hadn't forced them to the table and opened the gates for everybody else to say, but you did it for Fortnite. And being able to like leverage that. It's
right. Yeah, exactly.
Bravo, Epic. Thank you for actually like uniting the gaming community and letting us all play with our friends. Thanks. It's cool.
Right. And Skovac says, I don't know anyone who watches mainstream news who also watches Twitch. That would be me. I watch the news every day. I watch media, social media. I watch Twitch. And, I am but a microcosm. And you also live in a microcosm. But if you look at, Twitch's numbers and over the years and their growth, you have to, you're going to need some mainstream to be able to grow. Like, you can't remain an alternative lifestyle and necessarily be sustainable forever. You're going to have to step into mainstream. You're going to have to step into mainstream media.
I mean, if you're not doing that, then you're only growing by word of mouth. And that can only take you so far. Even through like viral campaigns like that, it can only take you so far. Than just like having it thrown in front of millions of people's eyes who have never seen it before in mainstream media. Yeah.
Right. So as we wind down here, a couple of final questions. If you were, if your dream game to work on is Destiny 2, if you were going to change jobs, if you could have your dream job working on Destiny 2, what would that be doing?
Working on the raid and dungeon team. Like, I love the raid experience so much in video games. I want to help design it. And as far as raiding goes, I think there's only one game thus far that's done anything close to the way that Destiny does raiding, and it's Ghost of Tsushima. As far as I've seen, their 4-player activity is very similar to raiding in Destiny. I think that's awesome. That's really cool.
Ghost of Tsushima, I did some 4-player co-op in Ghost of Tsushima after they released it, and it was fantastic. Yeah. It was really good.
That's like another game that I want to play. that I can't because I don't have a PlayStation. And that would be pretty awesome, is to experience the raid stuff there. But I would love to help make those experiences. Like I have a lot of experience raiding in WoW and now in Destiny, and I'd love to get to be a part of the team that makes new experiences like that, and try to like take some of the cool experiences I've had raiding in WoW and see how they could translate into Destiny. I think it'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back. So PS4 launched with HDCP enabled. So yeah, I don't know if that came as a patch but I definitely had to disable it to be able to stream PS4. But it's funny because as it stands right now, PS3 still has HDCP enabled. You cannot stream a PS3 unless you find a way to strip HDCP from it. So there are workarounds and things that you have to do, and it's annoying. So yeah, getting some, and there are things that Sony does phenomenally. Sony makes reliable hardware, right? Mm-hmm. Like your PS2 probably still works. Like if you plug in your PS2, probably still works. Your PS1, fire it up, probably still works. I don't know that I could say the same for 360, and I was a huge 360 fanboy. Yeah. And they make single-player experiences and tell stories like nobody else. They're fantastic at that. But there are a lot of technical things about the way that Sony has either had to have their hand forced in terms of like crossplay, or streaming, that do like grind my gears a little bit. Minor aside. Sorry, every now and then someone taps into a thing that I feel like I have to address.
That's cool.
If you're going to create a movie adaptation, would Destiny be a good movie? Is, I guess, my question.
Yeah, I think so.
Would it be better as a series or as a movie?
Definitely as a series, because I think the biggest thing that I would want to see honestly, the thing that I want to see most might actually work fairly well as just a movie. But I want to see an on-screen adaptation of the Grimoire cards, the Books of Sorrow from Destiny 1. And the Books of Sorrow are the story of the Hive. It's one of the best pieces of fiction I have ever read in my entire life.
And you're a fantasy fiction reader. Like you're a big, we covered this on Red 6 recently.
Yeah. The writing team was so on point with telling the story, because the whole point, and it came out with Taken King, because we had fought Crota in year 1 in a raid, and that brought Oryx in to be the antagonist for year 2 in the story. And the Books of Sorrow were the story of how Oryx and his sisters came to power, and like where they started, and all of the things that led to them becoming able to do what they do. And just like it humanized them. Like when you didn't read the story until after you've done the campaign, for most people, right? Right. And for me, I had already done the raid and actually fought Oryx there, and it humanized Oryx and his sisters and made everything more muddy, as far as like, this is the bad guy, you punch the bad guy,
right?
But it made the bad guy relatable.
Similar to the way, I mean, I don't know if I don't know that I'd say relatable necessarily, but in the way that Halo 2 gave voice to the Covenant, as opposed to just being, they're different from you, kill them. And then Halo 2 was like, well, they have like customs, and they have like internal conflict, and there are, good Covenant, bad, Covenant, or, as they broke down the different races, stuff like that. And so really fleshing out that stuff is really cool. Yeah, so that would be where you would start with a visual adaptation.
It was really, honestly, the way that it was a much deeper dive than what the Sangheili got in Halo 2, but it was similar. Yeah, they expanded on their lore and made at least the major players in the Hive relatable. I still don't have any qualms just going around stomping thralls that are trying to swarm me in an activity. But it is a really cool story about how, these people that are bad guys in our story haven't always been bad. And maybe they didn't want to be bad in the first place, but this is just how things worked out. And yeah, it would be a fantastic movie, and they could probably do a series about it if they expanded on stuff more. But I would, even if there was a Halo or a Destiny TV show, I would have to have that played out in some way. I would have to see the Books of Sorrow on screen.
Awesome.
Absolutely, Smurf. I am super duper excited for all this stuff. Oh, to Halo. I actually don't know if I'm going to play Halo Infinite. Maybe a little. I might play multiplayer with friends. But I'll have to like see what people say about the story to see if I actually want to actually buy the PvE stuff.
I'm 100%. I'm a huge Halo fan, so I'm going to be 100% there.
That's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so last question. If someone wants to do what you do, how do they get their foot in the door? How do they how do they follow you if someone wants to work for Bungie? Do you have a direction that you can point them to?
Yeah, so you can literally just go to the careers page on Bungie.net. And everything that's available is listed, and there are tons of positions open right now for a lot of different things. Remote positions, yeah. So like the studio isn't open, even if you're in Seattle right now, the studio isn't open to most people. So like it is expected that you'll at least start remote. Again, I don't know when the studio's going to open back up. It's being planned, but like you will begin remote if you get hired, sometime in the near future. So everything is remote now, and there are fully remote, like permanently remote positions open now too for doing all kinds of different things. So yeah, the careers page on Bungie.net. That I don't know, Elena. I'm not sure.
You could always give it a shot. I mean, there's
Correct.
no downside in giving it a shot, going and applying.
Exactly. Yeah, and they may say that on the applications, whether they're U.S. only or not. I'm unsure. But yeah, if nothing else, you can apply, and then have follow-up emails with anybody that contacts you about it.
Fantastic.
Good question.
Dan, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today. I appreciate
Thanks for having me, dude. It was fun.
Absolutely.
I love talking.
I will have you back to talk again. This was fun. We could talk about games. I'm sure I could talk about games like for hours. Like if you and I went off on a tangent. I had definitely notes to keep us on topic today.
Good. So. Yeah, good job. You did great. You did great keeping me corralled. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. I'm going to let you go, and then I will say goodbye to stream, but we will catch you later. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Bye.
You guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Dan today. It was a ton of fun, and I would love to have Dan back, and we can learn more and talk Destiny and talk video games. I appreciate you guys being here. If you see Captain Top Deck here in stream, that is Dan. So be friends with him. Urge him to stream, maybe. Maybe we can bully Captain Top Deck into streaming sometime soon. Thank you guys so much for joining the show today. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Don't forget to check out the Red 6 podcast. Dan was recently on a Red 6 podcast, which you can find right here. Boom, there's the YouTube. Go watch us talk about stuff. If we didn't, I try to, when we do interviews, I'm a little bit light on interaction unless there's a direct question, but I want you guys to know, brothers, I appreciate you, Jedi, being here, Trex, Selena, Rain, everybody let's go back. It was so good to see you guys. You all are awesome. Go make friends with Dan. Go make friends with Captain Top Deck. Play some Destiny. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time for Dark Forces. We're continuing our Dark Forces playthrough on PS1. So I will see you guys then. Have a great day.